Hello world, welcome back to Far Out State of the Game. Making a concept video was such a right call, we are so back. The resource generation is nearing completion and the graphical update is in sight. So today we're gonna cover the progress made and I'm gonna share the ideas I have about some stylistic choices. So, resources. I've made a decent structure. The relatively small resource pool holds all the data you could ever need. Colors, properties, some additional data for world gen, and the best part is mostly cross-compatible, meaning your save file won't implode if I add new properties or a whole new resource type. It will just regenerate whatever's missing. After the resource pool was done, I had to tie it to the old world gen code. And boy did I manage to mess up, right? Cause anytime I touch world generation, my RAM stakes start praying. This time the RAM ballooned to like 6 or 7 gigabytes. 6, 7. I'm gonna be the nerd I am for a moment and go on a little rant to explain why that happened. The problem was, I decided to simplify the architecture behind storing the world on the disk by packing all the tile data into single 64-bit integers, using bitwise operations and hex literals and other things I never thought I'd use unironically. I guess the first year of computer science wasn't a complete waste after all. Anyway, the thing is, the function to unpack said integer back into tile data created a new struct every time it's called, and it was called a lot during world gen, which ballooned the memory out of proportion and slowed down the generation process really badly. But it was a really simple fix. Just have one struct for tile data during world gen, pass it as an argument to the function, and just overwrite the values. Something this simple eased up the RAM usage from 6 gigabytes to sub 100 megabytes. So now what remains in this part of the roadmap is basic resource generation, i.e. random sticks, stones, and plant fibers, and the inventory to pick them up and store in. I could probably knock that out in the following week and move on to graphics. Speaking of, my vision for the graphical update isn't fully coherent yet, but I have some key ideas I wanna try. Firstly, a thing you don't see as often in side-scrollers, foregrounds. You see, I'd like to kind of shift away from the classic pipeline of spelunking underground for half of your gameplay, meaning the information of what's under you won't matter as much, and it can be covered up with a foreground. Think Kingdom, which visually is one of my favorite games by the way, but with all sorts of foregrounds, not just water. I also want to give my tiles just a tad bit of perspective so they don't look as flat. Something even more interesting though is what I want to do with the skies. I want to make them as astronomically accurate as I reasonably can, starting with the color. Since the entire world's color scheme will be randomly generated, I want the color of the sky to be more dynamic, depending on the color of the home star, which I think will always be white by default. I'll explain why in a second. And also the sky's scattering profile. Say we have a white star and an atmosphere that scatters blue light. This will take blue out of the star's white light, making the star itself appear yellow and the sky blue, just like on Earth. Those scattering profiles will also affect sunrises and sunsets, scattering more and more wavelengths the closer the star is to the horizon, creating a sort of unique ambience for every save. Now, why stick exclusively with the white stars? Well, let's imagine the star color is dominantly red and the atmosphere primarily scatters green. This would just make the sky look sad and washed out, while the star mostly keeps its red color, since there is barely any green in its light to scatter. This produces a quite distasteful looking sky. And I don't know about you, but I personally wouldn't want to look at this for most of the gameplay just because of bad RNG. White light is the most versatile because it contains the full spectrum of color, and it's really hard to make it look bad. Alright, moving on. I also want the other objects of the star system done more consciously than just, you know, the classic approach. Sun sets, moon rises, they follow the exact same trajectory and the cycle repeats over and over again. Instead, I want to try and make each stellar object have its own unique orbit, giving room for stuff like eclipses to occur naturally rather than, say, via a random event. As a cherry on top, I want to make a procedurally generating night sky that rotates depending on the player's position within the world. You see, the planet will be divided in 12 different slices, which are basically separate areas of the world, each with their own climate and ecosystem and whatnot, forming a loop you can fully travel around. And so I want the sky's direction and origin of rotation to depend on the hemisphere the player's in. Say, in the northern hemisphere the sky rotates clockwise and the origin points north, and in the southern hemisphere it's gonna be the opposite. The sky rotates counterclockwise and the origin points south, allowing for navigation by such subtle environmental details, which I really like the sound of. And I think that's just about all I wanted to share for today. I can't stress enough how much I appreciate all of the new people tuning in and supporting the project. Love you guys and gals. Mwah. Bye bye.